Remember Answers in Genesis? Yeah, of course you do. They're the ones who were all the talk back in the days, but now seem to have gone a bit silent. Well, it turns out that they have multiple channels. Someone sent me a video suggestion on Twitter, and it was a video from a channel called Answers in Genesis Canada. Oh no, they're expanding their influence to multiple countries now! Anyway, they have a series of videos, now with over 100 episodes, where they give arguments for creation being true and evolution being false. You know, the usual. And although I'm not responding to the exact video that was sent to me, I did find something else more interesting. Remember when I said I always wanted to see a creationist answer the starlight problem on their 6,000-year-old Earth? If you've forgotten, there's going to be a brief refresher later, so don't worry. Basically, because the observable universe is 93 billion light years across, it disproves a young Earth because light could not have traveled that far in a mere 6,000 years. Alright, let's check out the video.
Today's question is about, what about distant starlight? Well, for those who believe in biblical creation, this brings up an interesting and perplexing question. Since a light year is a distance that light travels in a year, about 9.5 trillion kilometers, and the Bible indicates that the creation was only a little more than 6,000 years ago, how can we see stars that are much farther away than 6,000 light years?
Yes, indeed, light only can travel so fast. It's actually crazy to think that in our perspective, the speed of light is incredibly fast. However, compared to the size of the universe, it's actually super slow. We don't even know how far the actual universe extends to. For all we know, the universe could be infinite in size. And yes, I actually mean infinite. We as humans have trouble conceptualizing infinity, but it very well is possible. Anyway, 93 billion light years across. For our purposes, we're just interested in the radius, so we'll just stick with, say, 45 billion light years. Last I checked, 45 billion is a lot bigger than 6,000. I'm actually quite excited to hear what creationists have to respond to this. As long as you don't pull out the argument about the speed of light potentially being much faster in the past, then we're good.
Well, the stars that we see with our naked eyes are within that range, so they shouldn't be a problem. However, even the unaided eye can see the Andromeda galaxy, which is 200 million light years away, for example. And with telescopes, we can see others way further away. And this is the light time travel problem. Even Big Bang believers have their own distant starlight problem, but we'll probably address that at another time.
That's actually not true. There's no issue with the Big Bang. I made a video the other day that briefly talked about this, so I won't go into as much detail or analogies this time. Yes, 45 billion light years is much greater than 13.8 billion years, which is the age of the universe. However, that is not an issue because of the Big Bang. Speed is defined by the distance it can travel over a certain amount of time. But what if this space is distorted or stretched out? The Big Bang was a rapid expansion of space, so when that happened, space was much more compact, which means that light could travel over a distance before the stretching of space happened. The analogy I gave in the other video was a balloon. Say an ant crawls from point A to point B on a balloon. Then after it reaches point B, you blow the balloon up. The ant is physically farther away from point A, but it traveled a lesser distance. It's the same with light and the Big Bang. Before and after the rapid expansion of space, light has already made significant progress. That's why we can see a radius of 45 billion light years, even though the universe is only 13.8 billion years old. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why can't that be the case for creationism, where light has traveled that far with the Earth being 6,000 years old? Well, the issue is that they don't believe in the Big Bang to begin with. They don't believe that there was an expansion of space. Heck, if you tell them that space is expanding even now, many of them still wouldn't believe you. For all we know, God just poofed the universe into existence and there was never an expansion from a singularity. That's why this idea does not work in the creation worldview.
Now, creationists have proposed many solutions. One is that perhaps the speed of light has decreased since creation. Some people have interpreted slight variations in historical measurements of light speed as indication that light may have slowed. But they reason that if the speed of light were near infinite at the beginning, then light from all of the universe could have arrived on Earth on day 4, but the speed of light has decreased tremendously since then.
Okay, so in the next section, he actually debunks this claim himself. Basically, if the speed of light was faster before, it would break all sorts of physical laws. It also still wouldn't comply with the fact that the first humans, Adam and Eve, could see stars. I'll let him go into more detail on this.
However, almost all secular and creation astronomers agree that the data does not support this possibility. Furthermore, the speed of light depends on two fundamental constants that determine the structure of matter. If the speed of light changes, then everything else about the universe changes as well. That doesn't seem viable.
Yeah, so with the amount you would have to scale up the speed of light, everything would go berserk. Other than breaking multiple laws of physics, you would also experience some incredible distortions of relativity. But let's talk a bit about the physics. See, the speed of light not only defines, well, the speed of light, but is also incredibly intertwined with the rest of astrophysics. For example, the equation E equals mc squared tells us that mass is intertwined with the speed of light, and the two other variables you mentioned, the vacuum permittivity and permeability, would also significantly change, because the speed of light would have to be about a couple million times faster to conform to a young universe. This would affect a lot of things, such as decay rates, resulting in things such as the sun and any star exhausting its fuel at a much higher rate, shining at almost a million times the intensity and instantly melting the Earth, among other things like destroying what we know as magnetic fields and electric forces, and breaking of atomic energy levels. It just simply does not work because the very fabric of space-time would go berserk, so I'm glad we agree on this.
Still, other creationists have proposed different ways the problem can be explained by the strange effects of general relativity, the modern theory that time is relative to space and gravity. The speed with which time passes depends on your location. In most cases, the differences are minuscule, but the proponents of this view argue that conditions were very different during creation week. Light could travel through much of the universe while only a day or so passed locally. And these are compelling proposals, but like all scientific models, also have some drawbacks.
Yeah, I don't know what that claim is. From what I heard, that's basically just a God did it, so fuck you type of argument. Unfalsifiable. I mean, I have heard some arguments regarding God stretching out the universe himself, kind of like a Big Bang, in which case we would agree that a Big Bang happened, or that he created some sort of special bubble that had different physical laws when he created the Earth. Both are equally as ridiculous. If I hear something like that, the first thing that comes up to my mind is that the creationist has run out of counter-arguments and is just pulling the God did it argument.
Perhaps we need to look at the problem differently. From Adam's perspective, the stars we see today with the naked eye are not a problem because 6,000 years have passed and all the visible stars in the Milky Way are within the 6,000 light years of Earth.
Okay, sure, but you're only talking about the naked eye, but I don't see why looking only at the ones visible without a visual aid is useful.
But this would not have been the case for Adam. God created Adam 2 days after he made the stars. That means starlight had only 2 days to reach the Earth, but the closest star is more than 4 light years away.
Excellent. Thanks for giving me yet another argument to use against creationists. That's a good one. I've never even thought of that. Sometimes creationists are the best at debunking themselves.
And we need to recognize that God used many processes during creation week that are way different than the process operating today. How did Adam see stars the first evening of his life? He must have seen them because otherwise stars could not have fulfilled their function to help humans mark time we read about in Genesis 1:14-18. So even Adam had a light travel time problem. So perhaps we should attempt to solve Adam's problem, not ours.
Well, ultimately they are the same problem, so feel free to go ahead and solve either of them. Just keep in mind that whatever you're about to say, just know that we can currently observe over a few million times what we're supposed to with a 6,000-year-old Earth. At this point, you'll have to think of something outside the box rather than something that would get more ridiculous as it scales up, such as the speed of light being faster in the past.
He didn't make Adam instantaneously out of nothing, but instead formed him from the dust of the ground. And God used a similar process to make the land and flying animals. And he caused the plants to grow rapidly out of the ground on day 3. In other words, God rapidly and miraculously matured many things during creation week. It seems both logical and theologically consistent that, in a similar manner, God could have rapidly matured the universe, bringing the light from distant objects to the Earth in a way similar to trees instantly sprouting and rising to full height.
Okay, but you see how that type of argument is circular? You're using something the Bible told you to argue for the Bible, because right now what we're talking about is if creation is true or not, and that intertwines with everything the Bible says. So you can't use Bible logic for this, that's circular. Plus, if you really wanted to claim that God, quote, matured the universe, then you would have to explain what that entails. Does it mean he placed a mimicry of light in the middle of space that makes it look like it came from billions of light years away? Does it mean he built it small and then expanded it just like the Big Bang? You're using a vague word here and it's really not providing a lot of detail, and we all know that the more vague a claim is, the less falsifiable it is. I would like a more detailed explanation, please.
In addition to creating the physical universe during creation week, God also created the laws that govern it. What if these laws were not in full effect until the end of that week, as we see when God created mature plants, land animals, and the first 2 humans?
So you're saying he built things such as humans, the earth, light, and the universe before he built the laws of physics? That's not possible since he could have done none of those things before the laws of physics existed. And yeah, this is just another cop-out answer that I'm not interested in getting into. It's too vague and unfalsifiable. It's just a God did it argument, which honestly is what I expected for the starlight problem.
Instead of bringing starlight to Earth according to physical laws, God could have miraculously solved the light time travel problem on day 4 before putting the laws that govern light travel into effect. After all, nearly everything else about the creation week was miraculous. So what about distant starlight? Well, creationists have proposed several robust scientific solutions to the question, so there's no need to feel as if the question overturns the plain reading of the Bible.
Let's assume that what you said is true, that God is just God so he can do anything. In that case, why did God leave the universe after he created it so that it deceives us into thinking the universe is 13.8 billion years old? Why would he purposely put the light in such a position so that it reaches the Earth at a perfect time to see that the universe is 45 billion light years in radius? By extension, why leave fossils in the ground? Why determine a fixed radioactive decay rate? Why make the Earth seem like it's 4.5 billion years old? God must have known that humans would develop science one day and find all of these and come to a conclusion that the universe is old. He would be purposely deceiving us. Why would he do that if he wants himself to be worshipped and recognized? That honestly just makes no sense. Don't blame people for not believing in your existence if you tricked them into believing in something else. I, for one, will follow where the evidence leads me to, instead of clinging and trying to justify an old piece of text that has gone through multiple generations of telephone. You are starting from a conclusion and trying to fit observations with that conclusion, which is just dishonest. Oh look, this video is long enough to pass the 10-minute mark, so we'll end this here. Thank you to Fireshard, Alan Morton, JN, and Misfixit for their generous support over on Patreon. I will see you all later.